Hello and welcome to Dining with Death. This episode is on our playlist, Dining with the Deceased, where we go to locations that are supposedly haunted. We talk about the ghosts that supposedly live there, what happened there, and then we go into the town and we sample the food that lives with the ghosts. I'm coming to you from Gooding, Idaho, and behind me is the site of a very infamous location that you might recognize. This place is now a hotel, but it used to be a tuberculosis hospital where thousands and thousands of people died. It's reportedly one of the most haunted locations in America, and I'm going to take you inside right now. I'm Stacy Lee. Let's begin. This large and somewhat imposing building was erected in 1920 to serve as the dormitory for the Gooding College, which was founded in 1917. The school was started with land donated by Frank Gooding and $267,000 from the community of Gooding. The college was always very small and at its peak enrollment in 1928 had only 209 students. But at the time, it was the only location for higher learning between Caldwell and Pocatello, and it offered only a Bachelor of Arts degree. The college closed in 1938 and the building was given to the Methodist Church, which had continuously loaned money to the school to keep it going. The church then gave the property to the state of Idaho in 1941, and the state began preparing it to become a tuberculosis hospital. Due to personnel and equipment shortages because of World War II, it took years to get the hospital up and running, but eventually it opened in 1946. At the time it opened, it was one of the most advanced hospitals for TB in the United States. Tuberculosis was nothing short of a plague. It was often called the White Plague. By the dawn of the 19th century, tuberculosis was killing 1 of every 7 people on Earth. That's an incredible statistic. You may have heard tuberculosis referred to as consumption in films and books. That was the common name for the disease at the time. Throughout the 1800s, it was believed that consumption ran in families. People sought refuge in tuberculosis sanatoriums, where it was believed that lots of rest, a dry, cool climate, sunshine, and a specific diet, which of course I'm going to show you, could help cure people. Tuberculosis is a disease that spreads via germs through the air. It usually affects the lungs, but can also affect the brain, kidneys, and the spine. If a person gets TB and does not receive modern treatment, they will most likely die. The disease is most often portrayed in film and literature by a character carrying a handkerchief and coughing up blood. I don't know that it's possible to overstate how serious this plague was, nor how terrified people were of getting it. Many doctors worked for decades to try and find the cause and then the cure, but before that happened, millions and millions of people would die. Some physicians prescribed bleedings and purgings, so sometimes cutting the patients, forcing them to bleed or forcing them to vomit. And then there are reports of leeches and other primitive forms of treatment being used. The most common form of treatment was laying the patients out in the sunlight for hours and hours at a time. Often they would have very heavy sandbags placed on their chests. The thinking was that the sandbags would compress the diseased lungs and that the lungs would then, quote, have something to grapple with to increase their strength and breathing power. Of course, this seems counterproductive to us now, but this was the belief at the time. If patients improved at all, they might be taken out on walks or given small jobs. But if their condition worsened, they would have portions of their diseased lungs surgically removed. None of these treatments were very effective. Swiss and French doctors truly believed that sunlight, which they called heliotherapy, was the best chance at being cured, and as shown here, their patients would spend all day, every day, simply lying flat in the sun. It takes on average 3 years to die from tuberculosis. It is not a quick death. People usually have periods of improvement, but then eventually reach a stage where the body can no longer function properly, and they decline and die. Think of how many people an infected person comes into contact with in a 3-year period of time. No wonder the disease spread like wildfire. On March 24, 1882, Robert Koch announced to the Berlin Physiological Society that he had discovered the cause of tuberculosis, which he called tubercle bacilli. He observed this bacillus in every patient with tuberculosis, and he was convinced that it was the cause. Koch continued his studies, and in 1890, he announced the discovery of tuberculin, a substance he derived from the tubercle bacilli that he thought was the cure. It turned out not to be the cure, but it did become a very useful tool in fighting tuberculosis. His research continued even after his death. In 1943, Selman Waksman discovered a compound that acted against the tuberculosis bacteria called streptomycin. The compound was first given to a patient in November 1949, and the patient was cured. I just want to add that up. A significant discovery is made in 1882, but not until 1949 was the first patient cured. That's 67 years. It kind of brings us a little perspective when we watch people throw a fit for wearing a mask in a new plague, right? We're very fortunate to have a vaccine in almost a year's time. 67 years for this, and millions dead. Between 1937 and 1947 alone, 500,000 people died in America from tuberculosis. Many of those people died right here. As you can imagine, locals hated this hospital being in their town, and I can understand why. Picture it. There's this terrible disease with no cure that takes years to languish and die from, and you're going to bring all of those who have it right into someone else's town. Think of all the doctors and nurses and staff that risk their own health to take care of these patients. And then you also have those staff members, going into town and maybe exposing the people that live there. So it's no surprise that locals were not happy about this facility. As the antibiotic treatment became more and more available for TB patients, the hospital became less and less needed, and in 1976, it closed for good. The building then sat vacant for decades. From time to time, the state would discuss demolishing it, and it came close to doing so more than once. But it was purchased sometime in the late 1990s by a man named Gary Hannon, who turned it into the Get In Motel, which he operated for about 10 years. In 2002, the building was purchased by Tony Woodford. The newest owners call it the University Inn and Resort. You can rent the entire west wing of the hotel for $675 a night, and that includes 14 bedrooms, 9 bathrooms, the game room, the kitchen, a ballroom, or you can rent an individual room with what appears to be shared bathrooms for $65 to $85 a night. We actually called the day before we were going to come and film and left a message, but we never heard back, so we just showed up. The front doors were unlocked and the building was totally empty. It looks as though it mainly operates through a message board and the honor system. The place is massive, and I'm sure it takes great effort to keep it maintained. The individual rooms were locked, but I did find some photos online to show you. It appears that the bathrooms are meant to be shared between the rooms, but you may be able to get a private bath. There is a laundry room, a kitchen area, and a game room on the main floor with the rooms that line this long, wide hallway. We were pretty impressed with the woodwork and the construction. My husband is a contractor, and he said much of this is the original wood. Things aren't really built like this anymore, and you can see why this building is still standing 100 years after it was built. It's stately and intimidating looking, and, well, let's just say if you needed a great location for a spooky, hostel-style movie, this would be your place. The long hallways creak and moan as you walk them. The wind is whipping outside, and I have a feeling that even when it isn't, you can still hear it whistling through the cracks of this old place. It doesn't take much imagination to hear the wheels of the gurneys rolling and squeaking along these wood floors, carrying the sick, the dying, and the dead from room to room. You can almost see the nurses moving about and see the patients being helped or wheeled outside to sit in the sun. This large staircase takes you up to the top floor where, again, the long, foreboding hallway is lined with patient rooms. Even if you didn't know what happened here, it would still be a bit creepy. Knowing what happened here makes it much, much creepier. Thousands and thousands of people died right here. Thousands and thousands of people walked up to these steps and into these halls knowing this would be the last place they ever go. Being here alone, well, I don't spook too easily, but I got spooked here, as you can see on my face. If it wasn't a voice I heard, I'm not sure what else it would be. You can see how startled I was, and after this, I was done being up here alone. This area is totally boarded off, but I would sure like to know what is up there. We know there is a large attic in the building, and the owners stated on an episode of Ghost Hunters that they no longer go up there. Other people, including staff, have stated that there is the ghost of an angry old man who wanders the halls. A housekeeper claims she has seen him more than once, and that she has also been pushed and tapped on various occasions. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm pretty skeptical of these types of stories, but there was a moment where it felt like something touched me on the top part of my back when I was upstairs alone.
What was that?
Maybe it was my mind playing tricks on me. Maybe not. We went down into the basement, which is where ghost hunters and paranormal investigators claim dark and negative spirits reside. As you can see here, part of the basement has been converted into a game room. This area is what they call the ballroom, where they have large events. But again, it doesn't take much imagination to picture what used to be down here. Treatment rooms where primitive medical procedures were performed, probably facilities for laundering all the many bed sheets and patient gowns, rows of gurneys. You know, it's pretty easy to picture, like I said. Then there is this portion of the basement that I would have loved to explore, but we chose to abide by the signage that said employees only, and we did not enter it. I tried to get some footage, but it was dark. Very, very dark. Most hospitals like this have a ground level area for body removal where vehicles can pull up to the outside and remove bodies, and I would imagine this would be that area, as there is a door that leads outside and a flat pickup area on the outside of that same door. I think any time you wander around a large old building alone, you can let your mind get away from you. That said, it was much easier to do that here than other places I have been. There is definitely a heavy, kind of sad vibe in this place. Taking into account what happened here, thousands and thousands of sick people waiting to die, and thousands who did, it is no wonder why. Usually, this is the part of the episode where we discuss the food in the area of the haunted location. However, this story has an element of food that we're going to discuss a little differently today.
Okay, something a little different today. I could have taken you into the little tiny town outside the Tuberculosis Hospital. There was, a little pizza place and a gas station, but I thought this was a little bit more interesting. When people had tuberculosis, back in the time that this was used as a hospital, they had a very unusual diet. On top of the belief that they should have all this sunlight and all this fresh air, which is great, they also fed them 6 glasses of milk a day with 6 raw eggs. Now, I love you guys, but I'm not going to drink 6 glasses of milk and eat 6 raw eggs because I would like to wake up in the morning. But I am going to give you 1 of each. I am 50 years old. I have lived my entire life and I have never had a raw egg. So I can't believe I'm doing this. Oh no. Oh no. No, no. Whew, give me a sec. Okay, I can do this. Oh, I'm starting to think about it too much. Oh boy. Oh my gosh. Oh. 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 That was much worse than I thought it was going to be. Oh, it's salty. Why is it salty? It was so much. That was the thing. Like, not only was it slimy and awful, but there was so much of it. And I kind of started to get the white down my throat, and then came this great big blob. Oh, that was legitimately so much worse than I thought it was going to be, and I thought it was going to be bad. 6 of those a day. And you're not really even supposed to eat raw eggs, right? You can get sick off of that. I hope I don't get sick. And I don't love drinking milk either. I don't know if I can finish this, you guys. I mean, my hell, these poor people, they've already got tuberculosis. You got to torture them with the eggs and the milk too? I don't think I can, you guys. I'm supposed to be going somewhere right after I film this, and I'm scared to go. What if I get sick? Oh, I'm trying. Oh. I don't really hate milk, but just the milky texture after the raw egg was a lot. That took a lot out of me. That was bad. That was really bad. I think we need to be happy that we live in the age of modern medicine, because some of these old remedies are almost as bad as the disease. I can't imagine doing that 6 times a day. I can't imagine it. Anyway, that was part of the tuberculosis diet. Ew.
Thank you for joining me today on Dining with Death, Dining with the Deceased. Like and subscribe if you would like to see more. Your subscriptions help us so much. Stay safe and be kind to each other, and I'll see you next time on Dining with Death. Bye.